Hello, welcome to the first episode of the Pastor's Reading List, where we're going to talk about influential books in the Christian life. And the goal of this series is to get you to fall in love with these works so that you'll read yourself and grow closer in your relationship with God. And we're going to start off this series with my personal favorite book outside of the Bible, and that is C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity. Now, C.S. Lewis was a British soldier in World War I who was an atheist for a very long time until J.R.R. Tolkien, the author of Lord of the Rings, converted him, was a tool that God used to convert him to Christianity. And Mere Christianity is one of his best books on theology, in my opinion. It began as a series of radio talks that he gave during World War II to encourage Great Britain, the British, to endure and persevere as they were fighting the Germans. And in doing so, what he set out to do was to give a definition, a treatise on what he called Mere Christianity. And Mere Christianity is the beliefs that were common to all Christians in all times and place. From the preface, he says, "Ever since I became a Christian, I've thought that the best, perhaps the only service I could do for my unbelieving neighbors was to explain and defend the belief that has been common to nearly all Christians at all times." And he does a wonderful job of that in this book. One of the reasons this is my favorite book outside of the Bible is that it shows that he who unites us and what unites Christians is so much greater than what divides us. It also shows the need for an understanding of theology. And theology is such a loaded word for some people that they think of it in dry, dusty terms, and Lewis does a great job of showing us its importance. Part of this series, I hope to quote from the books to give you an idea of the way the authors write, and I'm going to read this section from his chapter on making and begetting in the first doctrine of the Trinity from this book here. And it shows C.S. Lewis's understanding of the importance of theology. And he says, "Everyone has warned me not to tell you what I'm going to tell you in this last book. They all say the ordinary reader does not want theology, give him practical religion. I've rejected their advice. I do not think the ordinary reader is such a fool. Theology means the science of God, and I think any man who wants to think about God at all would like to have the clearest and most accurate ideas about him which are available. You're not children. Why should you be treated like children?" In a way, I quite understand why some people are put off by theology. I remember once when I had been giving a talk to the Royal Air Force, an old, hard-bitten officer got up and said, "I've no use for all that stuff, but mind you, I'm a religious man too. I know there's a God. I've felt him out alone in the desert at night, the tremendous mystery. And that's just why I don't believe all your neat little dogmas and formulas about him. To anyone who's met the real thing, they all seem so petty and pedantic and unreal." Now, in a sense, I quite agreed with that man. I think he had probably had a real experience of God in the desert. And when he turned from that experience to the Christian creeds, I think he was really turning from something real to something less real. In the same way, if a man has once looked at the Atlantic from the beach and then goes and looks at a map of the Atlantic, he also will be turning from something real to something less real. Turning from real waves to a bit of colored paper. But here comes the point. The map is admittedly only colored paper, but there are two things you have to remember about it. In the first place, it's based on what hundreds and thousands of people have found out by sailing the real Atlantic. In that way, it has behind it masses of experiences just as real as the one you could have had from the beach. Only, while yours would be a single glimpse, the map fits all those different experiences together. In the second place, if you want to go anywhere, the map is absolutely necessary. As long as you're content with walks on the beach, your own glimpses are far more fun than looking at a map. But the map is going to be of more use than walks on the beach if you want to get to America. Now, theology is like the map. Merely learning and thinking about Christian doctrines, if you stop there, is less real and less exciting than the sort of thing my friend got in the desert. Doctrines are not God. They're only a kind of map. But that map is based on the experience of hundreds of people who really were in touch with God. Experiences compared with which any thrills or pious feelings you and I have are likely to get on our own are very elementary and very confused. And secondly, if you want to get any further, you must use the map. You see, what happened to that man in the desert may have been real and was certainly exciting, but nothing comes of it. It leads nowhere. There's nothing to do about it. In fact, that is just why a vague religion, all about feeling God and nature and so on, is so attractive. It's all thrills and no work, like watching the waves from the beach. But you will not get to Newfoundland by studying the Atlantic that way. And you will not get to eternal life by simply feeling the presence of God in flowers or music. Neither will you get anywhere by looking at maps without going to sea. Nor will you be very safe if you go to sea without a map. In other words, theology is practical. And that is why this is my favorite book outside of the Bible. Mere Christianity shows us that theology is practical, and it shows the theology that has united all Christians in all times and places for 2,000 years. There are things with which you may disagree with, but Lewis, of course, is one of the best at articulating his belief. It's a great one to grapple with. You can find this in our library here at church if you're interested, or they're fairly cheap anywhere in any bookstore. And so I encourage you to pick this one up. Give it a try and see if you can fall in love with theology as well. Have a great day. God bless.